Have you ever really, like, stopped to think about, well, thought itself? I mean, we do it all the time, right?
Yeah.
Every single day. But what are the actual pieces, the building blocks that make up a thought? How does our mind actually do it? Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. We're looking at Max Muller's really groundbreaking 1887 work, The Science of Thought. Specifically, his chapter on the constituent elements of thought. Our mission, really, is to pull out the key insights. It's kind of like trying to understand how thought is built, almost like a mental Lego set.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating here is Miller's trying to take us right back to the absolute basics, the bedrock of what it means to think. He's not just looking at the end result, the big ideas. He's trying to dissect the internal mechanics, which was, super ambitious for his time, trying to grasp these fundamental human cognitive things.
Okay, so let's dive right into his core definition. It sounds really simple at first, but it's got layers. He basically says, thought means no more than combining. But here's the kicker, the implication. You can't combine stuff if you haven't, separated it first. He even points to the Latin word cogito, meaning I bring together, which kind of implies you had to pull things apart mentally before you could stick them together. Think of it like sorting puzzle pieces, maybe. You separate the edge pieces, the blue pieces, whatever, before you start connecting them. You have to distinguish things from everything else just to combine them.
Exactly. That separation is key. And it immediately sets his view apart from, some other simpler ideas floating around then. Like you had Thomas Hobbes saying thinking is just addition and subtraction, simple maths. Mueller found that view humiliating was the word he used.
Humiliating, wow.
Yeah, he felt it really diminished the richness of our inner world, reducing it all to just calculation. And the implication is huge, right? Even like Newton's incredible calculus or Kant's deep metaphysics. Miller suggests they're all built on these fundamental acts, combining and separating. It kind of grounds everything. Brilliance isn't a totally different kind of thinking, maybe just doing this combining and separating on a massive, complex scale.
Okay, but then it gets even more interesting, doesn't it? He doesn't just stop at combining.
Yeah.
He breaks it down further. He proposes these four inseparable parts of knowledge: sensations, percepts, concepts, and names. And the big thing is, he stresses they're not separate steps, not like 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all tangled up, working together.
Inseparable.
Inextricably linked. Yeah, he uses this example, a carpet on the floor. When you see the carpet, it's not just your eyes passively taking in light. Your other senses are probably active too. Maybe you smell the room, hear background noise. And crucially, your attention is involved. You're actively perceiving. He argues you can't have the word carpet without the concept, you can't have the concept without the perception, and you can't perceive it without the initial sensation. They're all woven together like the threads in that carpet, making the whole experience.
That's a perfect way to put it. Their inseparability is absolutely central. He literally says, no words without concepts, no concepts without percepts, no percepts without sensations. It's a chain. And this isn't just philosophy. It lines up with what psychologists were observing even then. Our senses are constantly bombarded with information, sounds, sights, smells, tons of data. But what makes it a conscious perception? It's attention.
Right. Attention.
Yeah, you could be in a room with a table, hear traffic outside, but unless you actively attend to it, you might not really form a clear perception, let alone a concept. It's that mental focus that lifts the raw data into something meaningful.
Okay, so if we humans have these four inseparable elements, sensation, percept, concept, name, what about animals? What about our furry friends? Do they have all four? It's the natural next question, right? Where do they fit in Miller's picture? Can they think like us?
Right. And the general view, which Miller definitely shared, is that animals clearly have sensations. They feel things. And they can form percepts, too. They recognize things, places, people. They can definitely figure out what we like or don't like based on experience.
Sure, my dog knows the sound of the treat bag.
Exactly. That's a percept linked to a positive outcome. But the argument is they lack true concepts, abstract ideas, and critically, they lack names, language. Animals are often driven more by powerful instincts or really complex learned responses rather than abstract thought. John Stuart Mill even called them sort of automatic machines in a way. And Miller uses some really vivid examples to illustrate this difference.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, think about Odysseus' dog, Argos, in the Odyssey.
The one who recognizes him after 20 years.
Yeah. But how does Argos recognize him? Homer tells us it's primarily by scent, maybe his general shape. It shows incredible sensory memory, a really strong sensuous impression, as Miller calls it. But is it an abstract concept of Odysseus, my master, the king, back from his travels? Probably not. It's more immediate, sensory.
Okay, interesting distinction. What else?
Then there's the famous pike experiment. You put a pike, a predatory fish, in a tank, separated from smaller fish by a clear sheet of glass.
Mm.
The pike keeps trying to attack the fish. Bam! Slams into the glass, gets hurt repeatedly. After months of this, they take the glass away.
Yeah. Does it go for the fish?
Nope. Never attacks them again.
Wow, so it learned.
It learned, yes, but how did it learn? Muller argues it wasn't by forming a concept of glass or invisible barrier. It was learning through painful, sensuous impressions, direct experience. Bam, pam, pam. This creates what he calls a psychic series, basically an automatic link. See those fish, try to attack pain, stop trying. It's a learned avoidance, not abstract reasoning about why.
So less thinking there's used to be glass, more like a deeply conditioned attacking those things equals bad news.
Pretty much. And one more quick one. The butterfly grub, the Saturnia pavonia minor. This little grub with zero instruction, no one teaches it, builds this incredibly complex shelter to pupate in. A double roof of bristles, really strong.
Instinct, right.
Pure instinct. It's pre-programmed behavior, not intelligence or learning in our sense. It just does it. So these examples kind of stack up to show animals operating more on senses, percepts, instinct, learned associations, but not abstract concepts and names. Now, Miller does mention brain size differences as a potential correlate.
The physical aspect.
Yeah, pointing out, the difference between a human brain, maybe 1,600, 1,800 cubic centimeters, and a gorilla's, which is much smaller, like 500 cc, or even earlier human ancestors around 1,100 cc. But he's careful. He sees it as an indicator, maybe allowing for more complex processing, but not the sole explanation for the kind of thought humans do. The gap is more fundamental, about having concepts and names. My dog might look like he's thinking, give me food, but it's likely a complex percept tied to conditioning, not a true abstract concept of hunger or request.
Okay, that makes sense. So if animals are mainly in the realm of sensation and percepts, and humans have concepts and names, this really points to language, doesn't it? That seems to be the big differentiator in Miller's view. Which leads to the question, can we actually think without words? Is language that essential?
Yeah, Miller makes a very strong case here. He, and honestly, a whole tradition of philosophers, argue that language and thought are basically inseparable, two sides of the same coin. Words aren't just labels we stick onto pre-existing thoughts. They are, in a way, the very substance of concepts. They give concepts form.
So no thought without language. Pretty much his stance. Think about who else pushed this idea. John Locke said thought without language was impossible. You had Kant, Herder, Hamann, big names in German philosophy, seeing language as the foundation of reason. Hegel and Schopenhauer famously said, we think in names. Simple as that. Sir William Hamilton called language the attribution of signs to our cognitions, basically saying signs empower thought. So the idea isn't just that language helps us communicate thoughts we already have, it's that language is fundamental to forming complex, abstract thoughts in the first place. It allows precision, abstraction, things beyond immediate perception.
Okay, but what about those feelings, those moments, where you feel like you have an idea, maybe a really good one, but you just can't find the words. It feels like the thought is there, just stuck. And what about that interesting example you mentioned, the Polynesians? They talk about speaking in the stomach, describing it as thinking without words or thinking inaudibly. Doesn't that suggest thought can exist before or without language? But Muller pushes back on that, right?
He does, quite strongly. He argues that even that inner thought, the silent monologue in our heads, still relies on some form of internal language, mental names. You might not be vocalizing, but you're likely still manipulating concepts using their internal linguistic tags, so to speak. And he brings up the development of what he termed dumb people, individuals born without the ability to speak.
Right, people who are nonverbal.
Exactly. He observed, as did others, that their intellectual development, their ability to form complex, abstract thoughts, was often significantly limited. They could clearly have percepts, maybe simple concepts tied to direct experience, but that lead into higher-level reasoning, into abstract thinking, seemed very constrained without language. It strongly suggests language isn't just an output tool. It's deeply involved in the construction and expansion of our whole cognitive world. We don't just use words to think. For Muller, words are the very fabric of conceptual thought, even the silent kind.
Wow. Okay, so weaving this all together, we have sensations, percepts, concepts, names, all inseparable, all critically enabled by language. How does it all come together inside us? Miller talks about an inner worker, doesn't he? The moonon, the conscious self.
Precisely. The moonon, that's his term for the conscious self, the active agent within us. It's not just a passive receiver. The moonon is what actively synthesizes everything. It takes the sensations, builds percepts, abstracts concepts from them, and binds those concepts to names or words. It's like a conductor leading the mental orchestra, constantly shaping our understanding of reality.
And memory must be crucial here too.
Absolutely vital. Memory isn't just recalling facts. It's the glue holding the whole system together. Muller points out that losing your memory isn't just forgetting stuff. It's fundamentally undermining your ability to reason. Your concepts, your learned combinations, they all depend on memory. Without memory, reason kind of crumbles. Partial forgetfulness is normal, sure, but reason and memory are fundamentally linked. And ultimately, for Miller, the peak of this whole process, reason itself, what he calls logos, finds its complete expression, its perfection, only when it becomes incarnate in the word.
Incarnate in the word.
Yeah, meaning that understanding thought as this dynamic combining and separating, powered by language, is what lets knowledge become real, understandable, usable. It lets us build on past thoughts, learn, and grow intellectually.
What an amazing journey through the mind's building blocks. Seriously fascinating stuff. We started with Miller's simple idea. Thought is combining, which means you first have to separate. Then we layered in the four inseparable elements. Sensations, feeding percepts, leading to concepts embodied in names or language. We saw the stark line he drew between human conceptual thought and animal instinct, using those great examples Argos, the pike, the grub, and finally the absolute centrality of language. Not just for talking, but for thinking itself. Hopefully this deep dive gives you a totally new appreciation for, well, every thought you have, every word you use, its complex machinery under the hood.
Absolutely. And thinking about Muller's emphasis on language leaves us with a really provocative question, doesn't it? If thought is so deeply fundamentally intertwined with language, how might the incredible diversity of languages we see across the world actually shape not just what people think about, but maybe how they think? Could different grammatical structures, different ways of carving up the world with words, actually open up different pathways of thought, different mental territories? And maybe, just maybe, what potential ways of thinking, what unique perspectives might we be losing forever when languages disappear? Something to really mull over.